Welcome to the Next Level Human podcast. As a human, you have a job to do. In fact, you have 4 jobs: to earn and manage money, to attain and maintain health and fitness, to build and sustain personal relationships, to find meaning and make a difference. None of these jobs are taught in school, and that is what this podcast is designed to do: to educate us all on living our most fulfilled lives through the mastery of these 4 jobs. I'm your host, Dr. Jade Teta, and I believe we are here living this life for 3 reasons, and 3 reasons only: to learn, to teach, and to love. In this podcast, I will be learning, teaching, and loving right along with you. I'm grateful to have your company. Here's to our next level. Welcome to the Next Level Human podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Dr. Jade Teta. And today's episode, well, it's kind of a heavy episode. And it's a surprising episode, not something that I was planning on doing even after sort of the tragedies that are unfolding in the Middle East. But interestingly, many of you, which I appreciate this very much, have messaged me, DM'd me, emailed me, and asking, hey, Jade, how do you think and how do you feel about this situation that's going on? And often the question goes, what does a next level human do with this kind of thing? And these questions always make me very uncomfortable because the name of the company, the name of the podcast is Next Level Human. And of course, right now I'm the major face of this, but it begs this question. I'm not a next level human, right? So there's this idea that I think sometimes people go, well, Jade's a next level human, and so he must know. And of course, I'm not. The idea of the next level human is simply that we're always trying to get to our next level. There's no such thing as a next level human. When you look at it that way, it's, basically looking at it from a very hierarchical culture level aspect. The culture level human would go, a next level human means a better level human. And that's not what next level human means at all. And in fact, you may not be able to understand that unless you have some next level human tendencies. And so before I get into this idea of dealing with tragedy, especially global tragedy like we're seeing, and give you some of my thoughts on this, which, by the way, I don't know what they are. I haven't taken the time really to write these down, to think about them deeply. So I'm really going to be unpacking them, just free thought. And I often do this with my podcasts. A lot of people trip out because they're like, hey, how do you prepare for your podcast? And I just get on and talk. But with something like this, I'm not a geopolitical expert, right? And so it's tough. But I do want to walk you through some things that I think might be helpful, at least that are helpful for me. But I wouldn't call them being a next level human. I would just say, here's some things that Jade is doing. But before I get into that, I do want to just unpack a little bit about this idea of next level human not being better level human or not being a higher level human. The idea behind the next level human constructs of base level human, culture level human, and next level human is just to say that we all have these developmental patterns in us. In other words, we all develop as children, into teenagers, into young adults, into mature humans. And this developmental process is complex. And not to mention, we all have lots of different personality traits, reciprocity styles, attachment styles, the big 5 personality traits, or now the big 6 personality traits. We have lots of different ways to categorize ourselves. And we do have this developmental thing that all of us humans go through, not to mention our trials, our tribulations, our traumas, our pain, our suffering, our hurt. All of these things go into making us who we are as humans. But in general, when we think about human development, that's really the core beginning of looking at the next level human construct. And I do want to remind us of this so we don't get lost in trying to make the next level human a better level or higher level human. And I'll do this briefly, but I do want to go through it really quickly. The base level aspects of ourselves that we all have, the reason we all have them is because we must. They're part of our development. So when we are children, as we're growing up between the ages of 0 and 10 years old, we develop our base level tendencies, our ways of being around safety and security. We all require safety and security. And our beginning development is all about the safety and security needs. Now, a lot of people, again, who see base levels being lower than and next levels being better than, this culture level way of looking at things, get confused by this because they tend to think base level is bad. Base level is only bad if we are living most of our life in it. In other words, there are some base level tendencies that at their extreme lead to narcissism and Machiavellianism and, psychopathy and things like that. But in general, the base level development is the development around safety and security. Children have to do this. So when I evoke the child, you have to understand the child is very base level. They're base level because they have to be. Their parents are seen as an extension of themselves. They haven't logically thought about that their parents have a separate life. When I was growing up, I didn't think, oh, dad's having a bad day because he's got a lot of stress on his plate. He's trying to provide for 4 kids. He's worried about finances and how he's going to make all ends meet. I was just going, I'm hungry. Feed me. Right? Like that's the safety and security aspect of us. Now, when we get stuck in base level, and our safety security needs are stifled in some way, we have certain behaviors that will begin to manifest. And the major one is control. And I oftentimes describe this as a need for power and control. It's the idea that if I don't have safety and security, and I wasn't provided that in my development, then one of the things I will do is I will do everything I can unconscious. In my unconscious brain, I want to control things and exert power over my environment, because if I have power over my environment and all the things and all the people in my environment, then the unconscious belief is that I will be safe and secure. And so the power dynamic, people who are stifled in their development as children chase power. They want power because they wrongly believe, perhaps for a more mature person, would get this, but they don't know that this is not the way to go about it. So they search for power to control their environment under the false assumption that's going to bring them safety and security. And as we move into the development of our teens, our adolescent selves, this is the culture level state. This is where we switch from the needs of safety and security and we begin to move into the needs of acceptance and belonging. And so as teenagers, we chase status and popularity. We go from not realizing other people are extensions of ours, or thinking other people are an extension of us, and realizing other people have their own needs. And we start thinking about tribes, and we start thinking about fitting in, and we start looking at team-based behaviors. And there's a lot of dualism in binaries. I'm good, they're bad. They're, white, I'm black. That's a woman, I'm a man. They're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. All of this sort of team-based stuff has to do with our adolescent culture level selves. And so we start saying, my way is good, your way is bad. My team is better than your team. This is very culture level. And most people stay stuck in the culture level state. Now, it's really about what percent are we 30% base level, 30% culture level, and 30% next level, or are we more in our next level state most of the time? Now, the next level state is not concerned with power like the base level human or popularity like the culture level human, but they are concerned with purpose. Ultimately, for the next level human, it's about purpose. What is purpose? Simply the humble recognition that I am a unique person on this planet. There's never been another person like Jade Teta in the history of humanity, nor will there ever be. And the same applies to every single one of you listening to this. And as a result of that recognition, I can have a humble understanding that I can do something unique in the world in only the way that I can. For example, I'm doing a podcast right now. There's a lot of people who teach and do podcasts, but they don't do it in the specific way that I do. I do it in the specific way I do, which makes some people love me and some people hate me. Makes me resonate with some people and other people be turned off by me. But the idea here is that I can help certain people. My voice does matter. It can make a difference, especially when I'm using it in an authentic way. And that is what the next level human's all about. So it really is about, are you chasing power? Are you chasing popularity? Or are you chasing purpose? And of course, there is one other need, pleasure, that we can sort of chase. And all of us do that. But the idea here is that purpose is the ultimate state. It's about learning, teaching, and growing. And so as we mature into our full development, we still have some base level tendencies. Now they're just not about, hey, narcissism and Machiavellianism and control. They're about boundaries and standards. I have my base level boundaries and standards. I've learned when to take care of myself. I've learned when to prioritize my safety. And of course, I still have my culture level state. And that's the idea that allows me to connect and communicate and collaborate and all those things. But I'm not stuck in that. I don't sacrifice my purpose and my unique nature for popularity, but I can still engage with people. So a healthy person has a healthy base level and a healthy culture level, but is still their authentic self and still interested in their purpose, the experience and the example that they bring to the world. Breaking into the show really quickly to tell you about a brand new service that I think you're going to be very excited about. And this is coming directly from myself with Dr Jade, Teta.com, and a brand new clinic. Now, one of the things that I get from you all most of the time is, Jade, how can I get direct access to you? I like your materials. I listen to your podcast. I've taken advantage of all your free options on your website, but I really need some hand-holding. I want to be told what to eat. I want to be able to ask you about supplements. I want you to look at my labs. I want you to help me figure out what's going on with my body. I would love for you to help me with my workouts, all of that kind of stuff. Basically, how do I become a patient or client of yours? And it's been a very long time since I have done work in this way because I've been busy with other ventures. And recently in my businesses, things have switched around pretty dramatically, opening up the space for me to begin to take clinic clients once more. And I'm doing it in a very unique way. It's basically a concierge consulting clinic, a very small group of individuals, keeping them to less than 100 people in this clinic to start. So you get hands-on access to me. In this clinic, we have multiple monthly lives where I go live. Just like in a Zoom call, you can see me face to face and ask me questions. I also have monthly multiple office hours. This is a time where I essentially sit in a Zoom room. You can pop in, ask me any questions you want. The community is very much like any social media feed. It has a feed. You can come into that feed, communicate, collaborate, consult with me. Also collaborate with the community, other people who are dealing with the issues that you are struggling with as well. Who is in this clinic and what does this clinic specialize in? Well, it specializes in functional medicine, metabolic optimization, and weight loss in particular. So all those questions you have about hormones and how they're impacting your health and your fitness and how to lose weight, all of that stuff is tackled in the clinic. We currently have spaces limited for new members to the clinic. If you would like to see me as a concierge clinic consultant, you can now do so. All you have to do is go to drjade.com/clinic. That's drjade.com/clinic. And you can get access to me now in the clinic. And the final thing I'll say here is that for those of you who need one-on-one help, this clinic allows you to get that from me and to schedule an appointment directly with me. I only see patients and clients who are members of the clinic. So go to drjade.com/clinic, and I hope to see you in the clinic community soon. And now back to the show. And this gets us into these tragic events that we're starting to see. The idea here is that obviously, if we were purpose-oriented And let's talk about this here for just a minute. Purpose is this idea that I am going to do something for the world. I'm going to sacrifice something. It's not just about my needs of safety and security. It's not just about my team. It's about that I want to do something that will benefit other people. In other words, the base level state is all about it's me against the world, safety, security. The culture level is all about it's my team versus your team. So can we see that when nations have tension, that's what they're about? They're operating from their base level and their culture level states. And so what happens is the base level, the extreme base level people who see the world as us against them, they will tend to be very narcissistic, very Machiavellian, very psychopathic in their approach to the world. Eye for an eye, Hammurabi's code. I got to tear other people down. It's a war, literally. Individuals who are base level do this. And we can see that the base levels, who are almost always in the minority, can cause a lot of problems. And they oftentimes can trigger everyone else at the culture level to pick a team. And to me, this is sort of what happens on these global levels. You have a small amount of people, an extreme right or an extreme left politically, that are so base level and so power dominated that they are certainly capable of committing violence. And they will. And these are a small number of people. And then as soon as they do, the culture level tendency of the masses, which are most people, kick in. And you start seeing, I'm on team such and such, and I'm on team such and such. And you see this big schism. And this is what we're seeing in the world, right? Base level humanity triggering culture level humanity. When really what humanity needs is the antidote, right? The antidote. I oftentimes call this the antidote to the assholes. The assholes being the extreme base levels who were stuck there and are stuck there. And by the way, of course, there's a conversation to have about why people get stuck in the base level. Oftentimes, this is because atrocities have been perpetrated on them or they've had traumas. The base level people, these are the people who are hurt, who hurt people. So yes, they're hurt. And we can be in a place where we appreciate their hurt and hurt for their hurt and feel bad for their hurt. But we can never condone them taking their hurt and passing it on to innocent people. We can't do that, can we? And culture level people start making those arguments. The next level human is the antidote to the asshole. They are the antidote to the hurt people who want to hurt people. They are also the antidote to the culture level people who are the hurt people who want to stay stuck in victim, who want to choose teams, who want to go one side's better than the other. Instead, the next level person is the hurt person who seeks to help people. They are the ones who seek to be the love in the world, to be the standard. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and emperor, has a great quote for this. He essentially says, stop arguing what a good human is, be one. And it brings up, when we think about tragedy and we think about leaders and we think about ways of approaching the world, what's really hard is we've had several next level human leaders in the world. They always communicate by including their group and the other group with love. Think about Nelson Mandela. He easily could have came out and been a culture level individual and hated the white South Africans. Think about Martin Luther King. He easily could have come out and just said, my team is better. The African Americans are better than the white Americans. Instead, he came out with agape love, that we're all one human race, right? Think about Gandhi. Think about anybody who's ever been able to transcend violence. They never fought violence with violence. They never spoke in a culture level way. They never truly chose a team. They didn't go, your group is the out group, my group is the in group. Instead, they tried to seek common humanity. And what I would say here is that when we look at common humanity, what actually is that? To me, what makes us common is far more powerful, or what we have in common is far more powerful than what we don't. We tend to see ourselves, culture level people, as racial abstractions and political abstractions and gender abstractions. That's not what we are, and that divides us. And that is a very culture level way of dealing with it. And unfortunately, most people are stuck in culture level binary dualistic thinking. But a next level way of being and thinking and aspiring to essentially says all of us humans are actually the same. Let's look for where we have commonality. And where we have commonality is that we all suffer. There is not a human on the planet who will not encounter some degree of suffering. And the next level human also says you can't compare suffering. You can't compare suffering because we all suffer different and we only know the suffering that we suffer from. Someone who's never been in a war-torn country has a different way of suffering. They don't understand that at a visceral level. So, of course, they can't compare that. They just suffer in the unique way they suffer. And for me, if I was a supreme being designing this world, I would create something to remind everyone that we are all one team human. And I believe very strongly that suffering is that thing. When we can understand that every single human is fighting their own battle and that every single human suffers, we can stop in the culture level abstractions of racial abstraction, gender abstraction, national abstractions, political abstractions, and we can simply see that these people are just like me. They suffer, and I should do everything I can to allay my own suffering and allay other people's suffering simultaneously. And this is the difference between a next level human and a base level human and a culture level human tendency. The next level human says, I will take care of myself and other simultaneously. In other words, I can't take actions that benefit me but hurt others. I also can't take actions that help others that hurt me. This is what the next level human does in all the ways of thinking. Every way he or she thinks, every way they think is a way of trying to bridge this gap. And they look out there in the world and they essentially say, we can look out into the universe and see that the universe has principles that if we adhere to, we are in communion with and in alignment with collective source. And that when we do that, things always get better. And when we violate collective source and these principles of the universe, things always get worse. Well, what are these collective universal principles? Well, just look out in nature, right? What is nature? Well, it's integrative, it's inclusive, and it's holistic. It uses everything. It recycles. It's one big cycle. Nothing is rejected. Everything is included. Integrative, inclusive, and holistic. The next level human way of looking at tragedy and people and disagreements and all of this is to look and see how can I as an individual first and then as an example and experience and influence other people to be integrative, inclusive, and holistic in their thinking. How can I, on an individual level, include myself and others always? Not helping others and then hurting myself, but not hurting others to help myself. Base level humans hurt others to help themselves. Culture level humans pick a team and then will hurt other teams to help their team. Next level humans don't do that. And to drive this home, I'll use a common sort of metaphor or analogy that I've been using of late, and it's something that we all recognize, and it's the airplane oxygen mask. We all know, we all hear if we get on an airplane, put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. And this is a great way to illustrate that we all must take care of ourselves. And we must make sure we're solid before we can help other people, but we also must help other people. So that saying has this built in. Let's go through how a base level human would deal with this. A base level human at their extreme puts their mask on, and then at its very extreme will tear off other people's masks. Or maybe at its best, they put their mask on and then they'll help their family members, their immediate family members put their mask on. But then they just sit there and fold their arms and let every other person fend for themselves, hoping even that they hurt themselves or they pass out so that they can win and be in control. A culture level human essentially puts their mask on, and then they look around for everyone else who's wearing a blue shirt the way they are, and then they try to help them. But anyone who else is wearing a red shirt, they either don't help them or try to tear their masks off. So what's a next level human do? Well, a next level human puts their mask on, helps the two people next to them, to the right and the left of them, helps the three people behind them and the three people in front of them, and then knows that they can't start running up and down the plane, otherwise they're going to hurt themselves. And so they do that and hope that other people on the plane take their example and then do the same thing and help the two people next to them and help the three people in front and three people in back. This is what the next level human does. They operate in the sphere that they can operate in. Interrupting real quick because I want to ask you a question. What if you can come to 4 days of an event and spend 4 days, a long weekend, immersing yourself in the next level human psychology, philosophy, and way of life? Oftentimes I get asked, Jade, I really dig this work. I want to understand all the ins and outs. And most importantly, I want to work on becoming my best self, my spiritual fingerprint, my purpose potential. I want to get over my wounds. I want to integrate them. I want to learn, teach, and love. I want to make a healthy base level and culture level self and get to my next level human purpose potential. That's why I put together the next level human events. These are events that use cutting edge psychology, cutting edge written exposure therapy techniques through journaling. We use psychedelic therapies in some of these events, and we deep dive into every aspect of creating a new identity and dismantling the old ones that keep us stuck. If you are someone that feels like you continue with the repeated patterns, the recurrent struggles, the stuck emotions, the obstacles that recur again and again and again, you know what I'm talking about here, right? A new job, more money, same difficulty shows up in your bank account. A new relationship, different person, same patterns as the old person. We do this again and again and again in our lives. We don't know how, oftentimes, to integrate the lessons from our development. And that is what our suffering is for. Our suffering is meant to be a source of meaning. Our purpose is meant to come out of our pain. Our hurt is supposed to be a way to help. And this is the beginning of what these next level human events do. Coming in 2024, I am doing the next level human experience. This is going to be a place where we come together in mass to learn, to teach, to integrate, to love, to communicate, to collaborate. This is going to be the signature next level human event to get us all where we need to be. Let's face it, the world needs more people integrating their pain and really wanting to make a difference for others. Remember the 3 imperatives: learn, teach, and love. The 3 principles: inclusive, integrated, holistic living and thinking. This is what the next level human events teach. They teach you how to become your best self so you can enrich others and evolve the rest of the world. I hope you will join me. Find all the information on the existing events and upcoming events at drjade.com/events. That's drjade.com/events. I cannot wait to meet you in person and work with you directly at the next level human events. Please join me. I can't wait for you to be a part of this movement. drjade.com/events. And let's get back to the show. The best revenge, another Marcus Aurelius quote, is not to be that way. And so in times of tragedy like this, where the culture level mind, which by the way, I have it too. My brother-in-law is Israeli. I have many friends I have 2 friends in particular who are in Lebanon right now. One who lives there and one who was visiting there when all this began to happen. And I've been checking up on both of them. And what I'm very clear on is that I support the Israelis and I support the Palestinians. To me, there is, not a culture level situation going on here. I support all loving individuals, period. The need to jump to sides and say one side is better than the other is the need of the culture level mind. And at the same time, we can never, under any circumstance, tolerate hurt people who hurt people. Hurt people who hurt people, we can't tolerate. We also need to look very closely in our brains and not do this thing where we jump to the culture level mind of needing to be on one side or the other. I am very clear that I can be on everyone's side while at the same time saying hurt people who hurt people, it is not acceptable and can't be tolerated. And to me, this is as far as we need to go as humans. Now imagine if every single human internalized this belief system. Perhaps we wouldn't even be in the situation that we're in. Maybe there would be so many next level human leaders that the extreme right in Israel and the extreme elements inside Palestine, Hamas, wouldn't even exist. So can we see that we can't solve things like this until we solve this base level, culture level issue within ourselves? We must be base level enough to have standards and boundaries, but not so base level that we want to harm other people and use our suffering to hurt other people. We must be cultural level enough to connect and communicate and love our fellow humans, but not create team dynamics. When we do that, we're automatically next level. In other words, we have a healthy base level, a healthy culture level, and a healthy next level human way of being. And then we can show up in the world that way and be the example. When I think about tragedies such as this, I think about the past 60 years, 70 years, 30 years, 20 years. What if we were all being next level? What if that was the message we were putting out? What if we were just benefiting ourselves and others simultaneously and always looking at it through that lens? Then what would happen is we would have nations who would say, we can't help this nation while hurting another nation. We wouldn't have nations and people, as many of them, who wanted to use their hurt to hurt. Perhaps we'd be living in a different world. In the end, though, here's what I'll say about this, and I'll leave it at that. I'll essentially say that, like I said, I'm not an expert in geopolitics. I'm guessing most of you aren't either. What I am an expert in is psychology. And what I am an expert in is human dynamics on a one-to-one basis. And what I'm guessing is, so are you. Every single human knows, right, how dynamics unfold. And if you're someone in the unfolding of your dynamics struggles to connect and is using your hurt to hurt people, even on the smallest of levels, or using your hurt to divide into teams, even on the smallest of levels, then you know that this is not the right way for you. And if you don't know, you're hearing it now. And I would implore you to consider this message. And for all of you for who this is resonating, who feel that something must be done, I think the best thing that we can do right now is to carry this message forward, to begin the process of getting away from our culture level minds and simply saying, I support both. I'm in alignment with both. And I will not also allow or say I condone or tolerate any hurt person hurting people. Nor am I ever going to allow or condone within myself anymore this need to jump to a team. Is this going to solve the crisis right now? No. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that by having this belief and moving forward with this belief, that in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, this kind of stuff is much less likely to happen. I also believe if we had leaders in these countries and the people in these countries who stood up and said, enough, I am no longer going to allow the base level humans, the hurt people that hurt people, to dominate our politics. Right? If they just put a stop to that. And let's take that one step further for whatever country you're in. I'm in the United States. I will not ever vote for somebody who wants to hurt other people in my country or who pretends that one side is the devil. I will not vote for any leader who disparages another side as bad or evil. These are my fellow Americans. You're also my fellow team humans. What if we all looked like that and essentially said, no more base level leaders, no more culture level leaders. We want next level human leaders, and we will not stand for it. And to me, this is the only thing we can do to understand this within ourselves, to live this example and this experience, and hope it begins to permeate out for everyone. So this is my take on the tragedy that's going on, and it would be my take on all tragedies that are happening in the world. I would love to hear your thoughts. DM me, shoot me an email at Jade Teta on all the social media platforms, or at Next Level Human, and support at Next Level Human, or support at jadeteta.com. Let me know what you think about this podcast and this episode. And do me a favor, if this resonates with you and you feel like I do, passionate about the idea that this is the way that we should be thinking about ourselves psychologically, thinking about our fellow humans politically, and that this could solve the issues if we could just change our ways of thinking, that we could wake up as a human collective to this way of thinking, that the world would be so much better. If you feel that way, please pass this on to your friends, especially at this time when it's on all of our minds and we're all grieving so heavily about what is going on in the world. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for hanging out on the podcast for this episode, and I'll see you at the next one. You have been listening to the Next Level Human podcast with Dr. Jade Teta. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe and consider leaving a review. You make the biggest difference when you pass on your lessons and inspire others. That's why reviews like this are so powerful. Your words may be the only ones that resonate for someone else. Please remember the information in this podcast is for educational purposes only. Always consult your personal physician or therapist before making any lifestyle changes. And finally, thank you for who you are in the world and the difference you make.